This is for Jerry and obviously Steven. Why did you decide to trade Micah Parsons?
Nobody really talking about me and what I can do on the field or whatever. It was all about Micah. So, yeah, I mean, I felt good. I just wanted to play my team.
We did think it was in the best interest of our organization.
You've been somewhere for 9 years. It's hard to not have those emotions. I'm big on just being like a complete, defensive lineman.
If you're a Cowboys fan, you should be excited right now. And if you're not, you should be a little bit nervous because the man Dallas got back in the biggest trade in franchise history is not the flashy name everybody was screaming about.
You get to hit now. So, I mean, wherever they put me, I'm gonna make plays.
But he might end up being the most important piece of this whole thing.
We've gained a Pro Bowl player in an area that we had big concern in.
And for those of you out there who think, come on, we traded away Micah Parsons for an old defensive tackle, pay attention.
And we knew if we could get an interior lineman, that was at least something that would improve us right there on a top interior lineman.
Because this story's been slept on by almost everybody. The day Kenny Clark landed in Dallas, he told everybody exactly what they were getting. He said, you're gonna be getting a dog.
That's my goal, is to be a dog, to be a dog in the middle.
And here's what a dog looks like. Not because he is loud about it, not because he does a dance after every play, because he lines up in the middle of everything, takes on 2 blockers at once so nobody else has to, and just refuses to move. He is the guy who does the dirty work so the guy around him gets the glory. Kenny Clark is 6'3", he weighs 314 pounds, he is a 3-time Pro Bowler with 9 years in the league, 453 career tackles, and 38 sacks from the interior, which is one of the hardest places in football to get to the quarterback. And in the summer of 2025, he became the centerpiece of a trade that shook the entire NFL.
The Dallas Cowboys are trading Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons?
Well, Micah Parsons.
But here's the thing about Kenny Clark that almost nobody talks about. Before he was a first-round pick, before the Pro Bowls, and before the biggest trade of the year, he was an 8-year-old kid in San Bernardino, California, learning the game from a father who would spend the next 19 years watching him play through a prison phone. This story does not start on the football field. It starts with a phone call, and it starts with a kid who had to grow up fast. San Bernardino sits about 60 miles east of Los Angeles. It's hot and hard. It's a city that's seen better days. This is where Kenny Clark was born on October 4th, 1995, the son of Kenneth Clark Sr. and Nicole Clark. His father put a football in his hands early. That was their thing. That was the bond. But in 2004, when Kenny was just 8 years old, everything changed. His father was arrested and later convicted of second-degree murder in the shooting death of a man outside of a San Bernardino area liquor store. Kenneth Sr. maintained his innocence, but it didn't matter. He was sentenced to a minimum of 55 years in prison. Picture that for a second. An 8-year-old kid, the man who taught him the game, was gone, not for a season or a few years, but for what looked like the rest of his life. But here's what makes this story different. His father did not disappear. Even though he was behind bars, he stayed in his son's life the only way he knew how to, which was through football. He would call before Kenny's games to give him a pep talk. He would call after the games to give him a full report. He would even call during games and have Kenny's mother give him updates from the stands. A father coaching his son through a prison phone, play-by-play year after year. And that's just one of the many reasons Kenny was playing for every single snap. Think about the weight a kid carries in a situation like that. Most 8-year-olds are worried about cartoons and recess. Kenny was learning to be the man around the house while the man who taught him the game sat 5 hours away. He could have gone 100 different directions. A lot of kids in that spot do, but instead he poured all of it into football, the one thing that still connected him to his dad.
But here is the part of this story that does not get told enough. While his father was coaching him through a phone, somebody had to actually be there every single day. And that somebody was his mother, Nicole. She worked as a nurse, pulling double shifts, doing whatever it took to keep food on the table and the lights on. And when the weekend came, she was the one loading those kids into the car and making the drive to the prison so they could see their dad. So when you picture that little boy pouring all of himself into football, understand who was standing behind him. Not just the father on the other end of a phone line, a mother who flat out refused to let this family fall apart. And that is the home that raised the man Kenny Clark became.
At Wilmer Amina Carter High School in Rialto, California, Kenny became a monster. As a senior, he put up 71 tackles and 11 sacks. He was named a Defensive Player of the Year in his division. He was also a wrestler, which is where a lot of that leverage and that lower center of gravity came from. Rivals rated him a 4-star recruit, and offers came rolling in. And when UCLA and Washington came to recruit him, they did not just talk to Kenny. Both schools sent coaches to meet his father in prison, behind the walls, so that even from prison, Kenneth Sr. could be part of the biggest decision of his son's life. Kenny chose UCLA and stayed close to home. Clark played in all 13 games as a true freshman in 2013. By his sophomore year in 2014, he was a full-time starter and the second-team All-Pac-12 selection with 58 tackles. But it was his junior year in 2015 when he became a problem for everybody. He anchored that UCLA defensive line, finished second on the entire team with 75 tackles, and added 6 sacks after entering the season with just 1 in his whole career. He saved his best for last, putting up a career-high 11 tackles in the Foster Farms Bowl against Nebraska. He was named third-team All-American. He was the only Bruin named first-team All-Pac-12, and at just 20 years old, he made the decision. He was not going to wait around for his senior year. He declared for the 2016 NFL Draft. The kid whose father watched him grow up through a phone was about to hear his name called on the biggest stage in football. At the Combine, Clark measured in at 314 pounds and still ran a 5.06 40 and put up 29 reps on the bench. Scouts love the power. They love the motor. They love that a kid who had been through what he had been through carried himself like a grown man in every interview. One thing kept coming up in those meetings, though, was his maturity. Teams would sit down with a 20-year-old and walk away feeling like they had just talked to a 10-year veteran. When you grow up the way Kenny grew up, though, you learn how to handle pressure early on. There was nothing a football team could throw at him that life had not already thrown harder. April 28, 2016, the first round of the NFL Draft, pick 27. The Green Bay Packers select Kenny Clark, defensive tackle, UCLA. A first-round pick, the 8-year-old from San Bernardino, the kid who learned the game over a prison line, he had made it. And then he did something that is almost impossible in the NFL. He actually lasted 9 years in Green Bay. Kenny Clark did not just stick around, he became the foundation of that defense. A Pro Bowler in 2019, a Pro Bowler in 2021, a Pro Bowler again in 2023. He played through double teams every single week and never complained because complaining was never his thing. In 2024, the Packers paid him like the anchor he was, signing him to a 3-year, $64 million extension. He had gone from a kid with almost nothing to one of the highest paid interior defenders in football. And understand what that kind of longevity actually means at his position. Defensive tackle is the shortest, most brutal job in football. You get pounded by 2 320-pound linemen on every single play. Guys break down. Careers end early. Kenny Clark, he just kept showing up, season after season, 16, 17 games a year. The Packers built entire defenses around the idea that number 97 will hold the middle, and for 9 straight years he did. That's not even luck. That is a man who learned a long time ago that the only thing you can control is whether you show up and do the work. But the moment that mattered most did not happen on the stat sheet. In May of 2022, a California Supreme Court ruling opened the door. Governor Gavin Newsom granted clemency and the Board of Parole finally approved it. In July of 2023, after 19 years, Kenneth Clark Sr. walked out of the prison a free man. And on September 10th, 2023 in Chicago, for the first time since Kenny was 8 years old, Kenny Clark's father watched him play football in person. Not over the phone and not through his wife's play-by-play, but in the flesh. 19 years of pep talks and reports and live updates through a receiver, and now he was finally in the stands. The Packers won that day, 38-20. Kenny said the emotions hit him during the national anthem. He said, "I've been through a lot in my life, good or bad. I'm just happy we were able to go out there and play how we did. It was a special moment, and it was special to share that with him." The kid who played 9 years for a man who could only listen finally got to look up and see him watching. And then 2 years later, his whole world flipped again. August 28, 2025. Kenny Clark was out getting his daughter some ice cream when his phone rang. Green Bay was trading him to the Dallas Cowboys as the centerpiece of a deal for one of the biggest stars in the entire league. The Cowboys sent Micah Parsons to Green Bay. In return, Dallas got 2 first-round picks in 2026 and 2027 and Kenny Clark. Parsons turned around and signed a 4-year, $188 million deal, the richest contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history. This wasn't a small trade. This was the kind of trade people would be arguing about for years. And right in the middle of it was Kenny Clark, standing in an ice cream line, trying to process that his 9-year home was now gone. Now put yourself in a Cowboys fan's shoes when that trade broke. You just gave up Micah Parsons, a generational pass rusher, the face of your defense, and a lot of people looked at the return and only saw the draft picks. They looked right past the veteran coming back the other way. Big mistake. Because Dallas did not trade for Kenny Clark to fill a roster spot. They traded for him because he fixed the exact thing that was breaking them. He was honest about it. He said he was shocked. But listen to what he said next. He said, "I was shocked, but once Jerry and all those guys called me shoddy and everybody, I just felt wanted. It is a blessing and I am appreciative of it." That is the whole thing right there. A man who has been through more than most will ever understand does not waste time feeling sorry for himself. He heard the Cowboys wanted him and he was already locked in. He told Cowboys fans exactly what they were getting. He said, "No nonsense, you're gonna get a dog, somebody that is just all about football. I am here to ball, I'm here to be my best self."
And behind every guy who plays this game at this level, there is usually somebody at home carrying the weight nobody ever sees. For Kenny Clark, that is Kalia, his longtime partner, the girl he has been with since high school, before the draft, before the money, before any of it. She is a nurse. And if you have been paying attention, that might sound familiar, because the same kind of steady, hold it all together strength that his own mother Nicole had, Kenny found again in her. Together, they have 2 little girls. And while Kenny is out there in the trenches getting double teamed for a living, Leah is the one holding down the home, raising those kids.
Now, if you watch the Cowboys defense before this trade, you know why Dallas made this move. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones said it plainly. One of the biggest reasons they were willing to trade a player like Parsons was to fix the run. Dallas could not stop anybody on the ground, and Kenny Clark has spent his entire career being one of the best run stuffers in the sport. He does the ugly work in the trenches that does not show up on the highlight shows, but it wins you games in January. The plan was simple. Plug him right into the middle of that defensive line and turn him loose on what he has always done best. Anchor it, eat the double teams, free up everybody around him. For a kid who came up with nothing and chased this his whole life, walking through those doors with a star in his chest had to feel almost surreal. So here's the question every Cowboys fan is really asking. You gave up Micah Parsons, a generational pass rusher, the face of the entire defense. Was one quiet veteran and 2 draft picks actually worth it? And in the first year in Dallas, Kenny Clark started answering that question. And he did what he has always done. He showed up. All 17 games for the 4th year in a row. 44 pressures on the quarterback, most of it while getting swarmed by 2 blockers a play. No drama, no noise, just work. But here's the honest part, because we don't do fairy tales on this channel. The Dallas defense still had a long way to go. The team finished 7-9-1. They still gave up too many points. And by the end of the year, the front office was shaking things up all over again. So the real answer to that question is not written yet. It is sitting in those 2 first-round picks Dallas got back, and in whether this rebuilt defense finally comes together around the quiet man holding down the middle. But there's one more part of this story, and it is the part that matters the most. For a little while, Kenny got the ending you always hoped he would get. His father was free, his father was in the stands, and 19 years of pep talks and game reports through a prison phone, Kenneth Clark Sr. finally got to sit there and watch his son play in person. 3 seasons of it. But on January 15th, 2026, Kenneth Clark Sr. passed away. The man who put a football in an 8-year-old's hands, the man who coached him through a receiver for nearly 2 decades, the man Kenny spent his entire career playing for, gone right after he finally got to watch. Kenny Clark would say, "God gave us 3 years to be with you again, and we enjoyed every second of it. I'm just thankful to be part of your story, big homie. I love you. Rest in peace, Dad." And here's what the people who knew him said. Not that he was bitter, and not that all those years took something out of him. They said that he had a generous spirit. That every December, the Clark family ran a giveaway in San Bernardino called Dreams Do Come True, where they handed out toys and bikes to kids growing up in the same streets Kenny came from. A man who lost 19 years to that city still spent his free ones giving back to it. His funeral services were at Wilmer Amina Carter High School in Rialto, the same field where his son became a monster, the same school that sent Kenny Clark to UCLA and then to the NFL. He came home one last time to the place where the whole dream started. And Nicole, the woman who loaded those kids in the car every weekend and refused to let this family break, she said it very plainly, "I love my husband with all my heart." So when you watch Kenny Clark line up in the middle of that Dallas defense now, understand what he is really carrying out there. It's not just a scheme, a father's example. Show up, do the work, take care of your people, never waste a snap. He is not playing for a phone call anymore. He is playing for a memory. And Kenny knows exactly what he came here to do. He said it himself. It is a historic franchise. I would not want no other thing other than to be sitting here. I have got a chance to win a Super Bowl here, and that is all I could ask for. I want to bring a Super Bowl back to the Cowboys. If you enjoyed this one, please like and subscribe. And with that, I'm out. Peace.